OpenAI has just released two new groundbreaking agents, the operator agent and the deep research agent. But what does this really mean for AI agent developers? Is OpenAI going for our launch? Will AI agent developers and frameworks be completely obsolete in a couple of months? And how exactly will this reshape the AI agent market? This is just a few of some of the most frequently asked questions by our community, and in this video I'm not only going to answer all of them, I'm also even going to tell you exactly what you need to do to prepare and even show you two completely novel use cases that you can create once these agents are out in the API. So let's dive in. Okay, so first of all, if you're new to this channel, let's do a quick overview of AI agents. AI agents are simply LLMs that can interact with their environment. I have a more comprehensive video coming up on a complete AI agent developer tutorial for 2025. But for now, all you need to know is that it's just LLMs that can take actions, that can do so autonomously, meaning without any human supervision, and that now can also reason about tasks. This last part is something new and it's absolutely massive for all AI agent developers, and this is also something that I will discuss in another video. So Operator is the first agent released by OpenAI, and what it does is it mimics human actions in your browser. It means it can scroll, type, click, and navigate pages for you just like any other human would. But more importantly, and what many people have missed, is that this agent is actually based on a completely new model called CUA, which stands for Computer Using Agent. So this agent, unlike standard GPT models, wasn't trained to just output text. This agent was actually trained to output mouse and keyboard clicks, which is exactly what makes this agent so powerful in your browser. But not only that, it can also reason about every single action. This is also something that we have not seen before, is that this agent doesn't just perform actions in your browser, it actually reasons about every single step and what it should do next. This is why it can automate these incredibly complex processes, which is exactly what I'm going to show you at the very end of this video. But of course, there are some limitations. The first limitation is that it's still lower accuracy. It's really high accuracy compared to other projects that we have seen in the past, where people just prompt GPT models to perform actions in the browser. Like from my tests, I also developed a similar agent in the past that can browse web using GPT-4o vision capabilities, but it often struggled with models. So whenever there was like a model on a web page that would accidentally pop up, it would not be able to do anything because it would just get confused, it would not be able to close it, and then basically you would have to get involved yourself and close this model manually. And the second limitation is high costs. Right now this agent is only available on the $200 plan, so we can probably guess it's going to be pretty expensive in the API, although I do think that if you're focusing on the right thing, costs are not going to be an issue for you anyway, because performing the process using AI is almost always significantly cheaper than performing the same process manually. And you can see some examples of that in my previous video with 5 real AI agent use cases. Okay, now let's talk about the second agent, which is the deep research agent. So this is the second agent released by OpenAI, and it was trained to perform comprehensive research. It can search the web, it can pull up the necessary sources, and then it can compile all of that information into a really comprehensive and, honestly, from my experience, really valuable and insightful report. The groundbreaking thing about this agent is that it's powered by the new O3 model. So again, just like the operator agent, it doesn't just search the web and just provide you with the results. It actually reasons about every single source, and then it thinks about what other information it needs to find next. And it's actually incredibly powerful. It's honestly one of the most useful things that OpenAI has ever released up to date, in my opinion, because it doesn't just output the most average thing on the internet, just like standard GPT models would. It actually compiles novel insights. Okay, now let me show you the best use cases for these agents that I've been able to come up with so far. So for the operator agent, hands down, the best use case is internal process automation. This means essentially automating processes that are based on internal software. You see, especially with enterprises, there are way more internal software tools that these businesses use for their internal processes. And before, we had to use platforms like into Guru, which essentially reverse engineer internal software for you. Like for example, on this demo, they show how you can create a credit card on Mercury, even though Mercury doesn't even have a publicly available API that the agent can connect to. But now there's going to be absolutely no need for this, because you can just prompt the operator agent to open a browser and then navigate the internal systems for you. I actually had a client before who was a really large enterprise client, and they spent around $2 million in order to migrate their data from one internal system to another. And now, as you can guess, this whole process can be automated and can be done for only a fraction of the costs. For deep research agent, the primary use cases are of course all related to research. So it can be stuff like market research, lead research, legal research, scientific research, or it can also even be internal document analysis. So this is something that OpenAI hasn't released yet, but something that they mentioned in their blog post is that later on in the API, you will be able to use deep research with your own private internal data, which can actually be huge for enterprises and other customers that heavily rely on data, like for example, marketing agencies. But with the deep research agent, the most valuable use cases will be those where you don't just perform the research, but where you also then take further actions based on that research. So again, this is exactly what I will show you at the end of this video. We will create an agent that can perform research on the Bitcoin market, and then it can also even invest in Bitcoin using my Binance account, which is absolutely transformative. Okay, now let's get into the Q&A. So I'll answer the most frequently asked questions by our community about these two agents. And then at the end, I will show you two practical real-life examples with the best use cases that I just mentioned in the previous section. The first question is, do we still need AI agent developers? And the answer is yes, we actually need AI agent developers more than ever before. All that OpenAI has done by releasing these two agents is it simply accelerated the adoption of AI agents in the industry. You see, these agents can work well for simple tasks, like if you just want to get movie tickets for the weekend. But when you have those incredibly complicated internal tools in place, you have to train the agents on the processes. So you have to train the agent to use the internal software just like you would train a real human. Otherwise, it's simply not going to be able to perform that process. So by releasing these agents, OpenAI has actually made our jobs easier. Now it's simply easier for us, AI agent developers, to train those agents because the necessary capabilities for doing so are available straight out of the box. Okay, the next question is, will this make AI agent frameworks obsolete? And the answer is, it will make some frameworks redundant that did not plan for AI models getting better. So a lot of frameworks today have specific prompts in their internal code that essentially tell the agent to think step by step, or that the agent has access to such and such tools, or that the agent can use the browser and so on. And in my opinion, now this is all going to become completely obsolete because, again, the models can now reason. You no longer have to prompt a reasoning model, obviously, in order for it to think about the specific steps that it needs to take. So, for example, in CrewAI, the agent does this almost after every message and after every action. It thinks about what it needs to do next, and the same is in Langchain. But now with the reasoning models, there's no longer a need for those extra chain of thought prompts. And the next question is, how will this work with multi-agent systems? I believe this will be transformative for multi-agent frameworks that did plan for these models getting better and for these capabilities emerging in the future. So the way it will work is basically your agents will be able to span other agents. So you could have like 20 operator agents browsing the web for you at all times. One agent could first search on Google for the most relevant companies in your industry that you want to reach out to, and then it could span like 20 other agents to browse through all of the search results and actually reach out to those potential clients. The next most frequently asked question I received is, how is this going to impact the AI agent market? And I believe this is going to impact the AI agent market in the same way as it will impact the AI agent framework. So a lot of platforms that did not plan for AI getting better will also become redundant. They might struggle to integrate these new capabilities in their platforms, or they might even have to completely re-architect some of their features. But in general, as I said before, it will accelerate the AI adoption. So businesses will no longer be able to just ignore AI agents when companies like OpenAI are actively releasing new agentic capabilities. Okay, the next question is, how do you think the API will be exposed? So for the operator agent, I believe it could be either a separate API like we saw with the real-time API, or it could be integrated into assistants. And for the deep research agent, I believe the only way to integrate it is through assistants API, because if we look at ChatGPT right now, it actually uses deep research as another tool. So as you can see in this chat, I asked GPT-4o if it has the deep research tool, and it said yes, and then even provided me with the exact parameters that this tool has. So it's called Research Kickoff Tool, and it has title, prompt, and other additional parameters. And of course, the only way for OpenAI to integrate tools is through assistants, because assistants is the only API by OpenAI where some functionality is running on their backend. So I believe in the future, it could be just another tool in assistants like we have right now, file search, code interpreter, and then it's also going to be deep research. Okay, another big question is, how can we prepare for the API release? And this is actually really important, so I created a separate slide on that, and I have 3 suggestions. The first suggestion is start building now, don't wait until the API is available. You see, there are still so many things that you can automate almost in every single business worldwide that literally, if you just start getting into this right now, you will still be able to find numerous ways to use even the previously released models by OpenAI. Additionally, you should not build around limitations. So make sure you're not building for something that OpenAI might release in the future, because this will obviously make your systems obsolete. Like for example, in 2023, we had a lot of clients who wanted to put in all of their data in a single prompt. And obviously, when the context windows were only like 32K, it was simply not possible. So we used to build those complex architectures, and then 2 months later, basically OpenAI releases the 128K context window models, and this entire system becomes redundant. So try to avoid scenarios like this. Don't build around the limitations of these models. Don't lean on crutches. Plan for these models getting better and better. And lastly, focus on ROI. Do not focus on use cases. Do not just use operator agent or deep research just for the sake of using these agents. Automate what provides the biggest ROI for the business. Do not automate something just for the sake of using new technologies. And the last question is, how do you think it could evolve in the future? So with the operator agent, I believe it could evolve into this agent using your computer through the ChatGPT app. And I believe this is the exact reason why OpenAI built this app in the first place. So later on, it will be able to take control of your computer and use other tools like, for example, Premiere Pro or Photoshop that are only possible to run on your machine and are not available in the browser. And lastly, I believe that OpenAI definitely has more agents to launch. So let me know, guys, in the comments what you think the next agent will be. Okay, now let me finally show you how you can use deep research and operator agents as an AI agent developer. Okay, so for these examples, obviously, because the agents are not available in the API yet, I will show you how to use them in ChatGPT. But once it's available in the API, the process will be pretty much similar, except you will write it in code. Okay, so what we're going to be doing for the operator agent is we're going to be setting up a customer portal for our client. So this is exactly what we do now manually, because our customer portals are hosted in Notion, and Notion doesn't have an API available that would allow us to set everything up right here. So what we need to do is we're going to basically send a prompt to operator agent and describe all of the steps that it needs to perform. So first it needs to log into Notion using my username and password. Don't worry, I'll change it later. And then it also needs to replace a name in client portal. And it also needs to set up a simple automation that would alert the project manager anytime a client posts an action item. So let me simply send this into operator agent and let's see how it works. Okay, so first, as you can see, operator agent navigates to our Notion client portal by inserting the link at the top. Interestingly, it seems to be already signed in my Notion because I was testing it before, so it seems like OpenAI actually preserves the credentials. Okay, So now it's creating the automation. As I said, it's incredibly accurate. As you saw just now, it clicked on extremely small icon for the lightning, which opens up the automations in Notion. It's literally the same size as the mouse, which simply was not possible before with GPT models by using any other open source repos that essentially mimic operator agent. And now, as you can see, it's setting the notification to myself. Okay, so it seems like it missed my name because the pop-up closed, but the second time, as you can see, it did it successfully, and now it tries to enable it, but it actually sees the error. So this is the cool part about operator agent, is that it's fully autonomous, meaning that it saw the error and then it corrected itself accordingly. And now, as you can see, the automation and the client portal are fully set up, and I get the notification in chat that the process is completed. So as you can imagine, this is incredibly powerful, not because the agent can control your browser, but because it's fully autonomous. So whenever something goes wrong during the process, it can then think and correct itself accordingly. So it means that now you can automate incredibly complex processes that can unfold in any direction. And now let me show you the next use case with the deep research agent. So let's go back to ChatGPT, and now let me type in the next prompt. Please complete a comprehensive research on the Bitcoin market. Let's enable the deep research, and now let's send this prompt. So as you can see, it provides me with some questions that I need to answer before it can proceed, which I think is honestly a really good idea. It doesn't make sense to spend 10 seconds on your prompt when the agent is going to be running for half an hour, because if you did not provide all of the necessary requirements, it means that you will actually waste more time than spending additional minute or two on writing an effective prompt. So let me just for now say that I want to know whether I should invest in Bitcoin or not. Okay, as you can see, about 10 minutes later, it used more than 30 sources and came up with this incredibly lengthy report on the Bitcoin market outlook. So as you can see, it contains a ton of text. It literally takes me like 10 or 20 seconds just to even scroll through it. And I suppose it would have taken me like at least 10 minutes to read. But the power of using deep research agent for AI agent developer is that it doesn't take another large language model 10 minutes to read this report. So what we can do next is we can actually tag one of the other agents I created. As you can see right here, I have this custom GPT crypto analyzer agent, and then we can tell it to invest in Bitcoin based on this report. Awesome. So now, as you can see, the crypto analyzer agent starts in action, checking the prices based on this report. Amazing. And now, as you can see, it provides me with the current price, 24-hour range, and other metrics. So again, you can only imagine how powerful this is, because now the agent can then further invest for me into the Bitcoin market based on this comprehensive research that included more than 30 sources. So that's it for this video. More comprehensive guides and tutorials on AI agent development are coming up shortly on my channel, so don't forget to subscribe.